What is up? Welcome into the Early Edge, powered by SportsLine. I am your host, Allan Bell, and we have an interesting show lined up for you tonight. It's going to be fantastic. I'll tell you what, let's not waste any time. Let's bring in the stars of the show and see these guys because, boys, we have a weather game tonight. See ya. How we doing, buddy? You doing all right?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Yeah, things are changing rapidly. Like you look up at the game and it's snowing and it's super windy, and then it looks kind of calm. I think these props are going to be changing, ever changing as this show goes. So we got to jump on stuff when we're ready.
Yep, we definitely do. Prop stars, how we doing, buddy?
What's up, AB? See ya, Mikey. Great to see you guys. Yeah, I'm excited. These two teams, they're conditioned for the weather, so I think their experience is going to make this game extra interesting.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see it. M Squared, how we doing, my man?
Doing well. Very much looking forward to this. You guys know how much I love the weather in general. We've had some fun weather, tornadoes basically in Nashville last night. Now it's cold, windy here. Now we get it carried over to Monday Night Football. I love games like this. I love the Big Ten. I love nasty weathers. I root for 3-and-outs. I love punts. I love missed field goals. So I am fired up for this game.
Yeah, that's definitely what everybody wants to bet on punts. No, I'm kidding. It's going to be a wild game tonight. And you're right. Dude, last night in Nashville, weather was crazy, man. We had all kinds of things going on. I'll say this, boys, let's start right here, all right? We've got winds, gusts up to 45 miles an hour, consistent winds, 25 to 30 miles an hour. We had snow earlier, about 30 minutes to an hour ago. So I want your initial thoughts, each one of you, on this game, what you're looking at, whether it could be spreads, totals, player props, positional groups, anything. See ya. I'm going to start with you, buddy. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I mean, we know whether there's snow or not, I don't think that's super high impact here, but we know we're going to see some sustained winds, probably between, like you suggested, probably between 20 and 30. Obviously, the gusts could get, way higher than that, but sustained between 20 and 30. So for me, I'm really focused on the short area passing game and who benefits from that. And of course, the running game as well. So that's really kind of what I'm diving into. And obviously that impacts the totals and the spreads and how this game is going to go. We might have had a different game script, obviously, if it was, 65 and a light breeze and sunny.
Yeah, I'm with you, and we're going to break down that game script because it's fascinating to me the way that both of these offenses are built and how the weather affects it. M Squared, what are you looking at with the weather tonight?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at the wind. It's the combination of the wind and the cold, really. You can say you're ready for it as much as you want to. Some of the players are, some aren't. I'm very curious on Mac Jones. We say that they're ready for it because we're used to New England playing in terrible weather. Mac Jones himself is not used to playing in terrible weather. He really hasn't done a lot of that in his life. So I know that you can adjust to it relatively quickly. They've had all day to adjust to it, but it's tough. It's difficult. And when you get temperatures, in the 30s, lower 30s like this with the wind, it doesn't feel good. It's not comfortable. Now you're getting hit and getting beat up on people. The adrenaline obviously takes over to some extent, but if things aren't going well, they can, no pun intended, but they can snowball just a little bit and things can get difficult out there. So very much interested there. I think you can have some fun with some kicker props. I think that field goals will be difficult to attempt. Look, I think that if the field is wet, I don't think we're expecting a lot of snow, but if the field is wet and slippery at all, it only makes the kicking game even more difficult to get the ball down in certain spots. So we might see teams be a little bit more aggressive offensively in spots that you would normally think where they might be looking to kick, actually. So it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. That's for sure. The New England Patriots averaged the most field goals in the NFL this season. So it'll be interesting to see how they're going to do kicking them on the road in these conditions. I am not expecting them to kick a ton tonight.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point, and we'll get more into it here in just a little bit. But the game script in both of these teams, that if they're not attempting field goals, we're going to see fourth down attempts, right? Which generally, some teams do very well with it. Some teams don't. But I'm fascinated to see that, between the 50 and, say, the 25 of how these teams operate in terms of fourth downs. I think playing ahead of the sticks is going to be incredibly important tonight. Teams that are, find themselves in 2nd and 4, 3rd and 2. That is going to be a massive, massive difference. Prop stars, I'm going to come to you, buddy. What are you looking at tonight from a prop perspective in terms of the weather in the game?
Yeah, it's going to have a massive impact. We're looking at the prop market. All of these numbers are very enticing. They're very low. They're very playable. But as I'm sure most of you are aware, and as Sia and Mike both broke down, this wind is not a recipe for driving the ball or passing the ball down the field. So it's going to make things really interesting. It's going to be in a big adjustment, especially for Buffalo, who really favors throwing the ball down the field. They're a very aggressive passing team. I think from a personnel standpoint, New England is better equipped to handle these conditions since they run the ball a lot. They have a very sound running game with two backs that they can lean on, whereas Buffalo has struggled to consistently run the ball this season. So I'm interested to see how Buffalo adjusts. I also agree with Sia in looking at the short area passing game as being a point of emphasis for both teams. I also think New England is a little bit better equipped in that aspect as well. But yeah, there's definitely some interesting props out there. I'm excited to talk about them.
Yeah, I am too. And you broke down the wind in terms of what we are dealing with tonight. It's a crosswind, right? So at least for right now, it's going right at Buffalo's bench. So it's not like, north and south. And I was thinking earlier today in terms of that wind that it might be a game to where, when the coin toss at the beginning of the game, picking your direction might actually be way more important than winning the toss, right? or getting the ball first, whatever. But with a crosswind, it's going to make it even more interesting in terms of the passing game. But we're going to break all that down. Jeweler, if you could pop in real quick. We got some rules for the show tonight. I want you to break those down for the chat. What do we got going, man?
Yeah, so I think tonight I'm feeling like I'm going to be in a generous mood. So there might be not a lot of points in the game tonight, but you know what? We might be able to have a lot of codes in the chat. So I'm taking a little inspiration from our guy, Allan Bell, and apparently my cat. Absolutely loving this, just popping up on the stream. So for every 100 likes that we get on this chat, my cat will personally drop in a subscription code for a free year of SportsLine into the chat. And it's literally just whoever gets to it first, whoever can log in to sportsline.com/join and use the code first, go for it. And if you want more opportunities, keep smashing that like button and we'll drop some more.
Yeah.
Meow.
Nice job, Jeweler. I like it. I like it a lot. Well done. All right, so guys, let's get in. Let's break down this game. All right, so we have Patriots at Bills. Bills are a 3-point favorite, and the total is dropped all the way to 39.5. So let's talk about the spread first. All right, like we said, Bills -3. Sia, I'm going to start with you. What do you like? What do you see? What are your thoughts?
Well, I see. So obviously, these two defenses are very good, particularly against the run. They're both going to be pretty good there. Now, you could talk about how good they actually are because of the schedules that they've both played. They've both played easier schedules, just offensively in general, against the run and the pass. I think New England is going to be probably the better team on defense. I think this is going to be a defensive game. New England's offensive line is getting a little bit better. They're pretty healthy. The Bills are pretty healthy, but they're without some key guys, including Tre'Davious White. I just think this is going to be the type of game where who's going to make the mistake. And against New England's defense, I'm more prone, believe it or not to pick Mac Jones there. I think it's going to be Josh Allen. He has regressed relative to last year quite a bit. That doesn't make him a bad quarterback, but it does make him a little bit more turnover prone. And I expect to see it from him rather than Mac Jones. And that's why I give the New England Patriots the edge here with their running game and the lack of mistakes that they're going to make.
Yeah, it's fascinating that you look at the game script or really just how these offenses are built, that wind or no wind, the Bills are going to have to throw the ball. Like New England is a very balanced offense, not to mention prop stars like you were talking about, the same as Sia, that a lot of the pass game for New England is 5 yards and in, right? So it might not affect them as much as Buffalo, who has such a vertical passing game. So I'm fascinated to see what Buffalo does, especially if Buffalo gets a lead. How do they go about it? How aggressive are they? And what do we see from New England in terms of their offense? If they're playing from behind and you can't necessarily run the ball as much as you would like, yeah, I'm fascinated to see it. Prop stars, I'll come to you, man. Like we said, the spread. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm really interested. I'm with Sia here again. I'm favoring New England just based on the fact that I feel from a personnel standpoint, they're more equipped to deal with the conditions. They rely on the short area passing game a lot. They have a very strong running game. That seems like the sort of thing you'd want to lean on in unfavorable or windy conditions. I do want to point out these are the top 2 teams in defensive DVOA. So these are absolutely elite defenses facing off against each other. I am very excited about that standpoint. Mike mentioned how he likes 3 and outs. I do too, because this is going to be an incredible defensive matchup. Even without Tre'Davious White on this Buffalo defense, they're super legit. In my opinion, they can handle New England's offense. So yeah, I think this is going to be a defensive struggle. Points are going to be really hard to come by, and it might be the first team to 17 points is the winner.
M Squared, coming to you, buddy.
Yeah, this one's super interesting. You look at the betting market here too, and just some of the betting trends. It is a dead even split at this point as it's about to close. It's basically 50% of the tickets, 50% of the action on both sides of this game. Makes a lot of sense. 3 is the right number, essentially. It's basically saying these teams are equal. The home field advantage typically worth 2.3 to 3.2 points in the NFL, especially under these conditions. So you're basically saying these 2 teams are equal. I lean towards the Bills in the game. My simulation number is minus 3.5 on this one. So there's a couple things working here in our favor if you're looking at the Patriots side. Number one, this is a longer week for the Bills. They played on Thursday night. They've had a little extra time. They've been at home preparing, practicing in the colder weather. Obviously, they're more used to it than the Patriots are. But for the Patriots, my real concern is how their home road splits have been so far this season. They've been awful, absolutely awful on the road. Averaging, I believe, just under 180 yards a game here, where Mac Jones is 237 yards at home. It's a pretty big discrepancy. There's only, I believe, 2 or 3 teams worse on the road in terms of the number of yards like that for them. So I'm actually worried about the Patriots if they fall behind in this game at all. I think it's a difficult spot. I know the key injury here is White for the Bills. I will say if there was a spot that they're not going to miss him that much, it might be this spot against this team in these conditions. So I think that part of it is just a little overstated on the Bills side. But really, it comes down to how effectively can they connect. I think they will still take some shots. Can they connect on him? I don't know. We'll see about that. I'm not bullish on Emmanuel Sanders, so I'm sure he will score the first touchdown now that I've talked about it. His average depth of target is over 16 yards. That is simply not going to work with that being your average depth of target. So I'm looking a lot at Cole Beasley, a lot at Dawson Knox. They're going to be critical for the Buffalo Bills to have any success in this game. Love both of their average depth of targets. Beasley down around 6 yards. Dawson Knox about 7.5. So we're basically looking for receivers and players that have an ADOT of 9 yards or less in these kind of conditions. It's going to be interesting to see how much they try and force the ball to Stephon Diggs. So I like the Bills. I think it gives them a home field advantage. It's one of the 3 places, we talked about it with Pittsburgh. We talk about it with Seattle. Playing in Buffalo is absolutely still one of the home field advantages in the NFL. And that's the reason that I get there on the minus 3.5. It's not a massive edge, but it is through a key number for me.
Props, yeah, what do you got?
Yeah, 2 things I wanted to point out. I believe it was the last time that these 2 teams met. Stephon Diggs torched J.C. Jackson for, I believe it was 9 catches for 145 yards. So J.C. Jackson, for those that aren't aware, is one of the elite corners in the league. He's a defensive MVP candidate this season, had an absolutely phenomenal season, probably the best defensive player besides Matthew Judon on New England's defense. I'm really excited to see that matchup, even in these unfavorable conditions, because as we know, Josh Allen is not afraid to lean on Diggs heavily, which I anticipate happening tonight as well. So it's going to be really interesting. And then I did just check. Zach Moss was activated for this game. It's been 2 straight games where he has been inactive. We've seen a backfield split between Matt Breida and Devin Singletary, which has been interesting. Zach Moss coming into the season, a lot of people thought would be potentially Buffalo's workhorse running back, or at least lead the team in touches. We saw that early in the season, then he kind of fell out of favor with Buffalo. But I think in preparation for these wins and these conditions and potentially having to lean on the ground game, he's been activated tonight, which tells me that, Buffalo is going to probably pivot a little bit and not maybe pass the ball quite as much as we're accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, you spoke about injuries. Look, for the Patriots, Kyle Duggar is out, safety. He leads the team in solo tackles with 62. He's got 3 interceptions and a fumble recovery this year. That is a pretty big loss. You were talking about, in regards to Tre'Davious White, M Squared, you were, of how it might not be that that big of a loss in this game particularly. Duggar could be a big loss in this game for New England, but yeah, we'll soon see in regards to that. All right, now the total 39.5. All right, this has dropped down. Where did it start? 44.5, 45?
I think it was closer to 46.
46.
Yeah,
okay, so yeah,
46.
so we've seen a ton of drops, sitting at 39.5 right now. Obviously, everyone in America has been hitting the under on this game. I'm actually on the over 41 on this game, but Sia, I'm going to start with you. What are your thoughts here on the total 39.5?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a bad time to take the under. You've lost all the value. So to me, I wouldn't bother there unless all of a sudden the winds kick up to like 50 miles per hour and you see an opportunity. With that said, it's a no play for me because I do think it's going to be a slower game, a running game. And by the way, I mean, I thought what Alex said was super on point. If you're activating Zach Moss and you have 3 running backs, like clearly, just from a prop standpoint, that is going to affect Josh Allen and the receivers because it's an acknowledgement by the Bills that because of these conditions, we probably are going to have to lean on the running game a little bit, which again plays into that total analysis. It's a no play for me. If I had to bet it, because it's so much lower and because I think the defenses might be opportunistic. Let's not forget New England is plus 13 in the turnover margin. Now, Duggar being out, and just mere regression, that's not going to be sustained over this game or the rest of the season necessarily. But there could be some short fields created, which could create some points. So I would probably lean on the over now that it's so low, but it's definitely a no play for me.
I got you. Prop stars. What are your thoughts here?
I'm going to defer here to Mike and Sia. I think they spend a lot more time looking at this than I did. I haven't spent much time looking at it. Or I would imagine it'd be under or nothing for me. But like Sia mentioned, the value just sucked out of it, having moved 6 or 7 points at this point.
No, totally understood. It was squared. Your thoughts now, and I'll say this: we'll get into official picks right now. So, Mike, I'm going to start with you. You've got the first half under 20. Break that down, plus what you think. Total game, everything in regards to the total game.
Yeah, so I stayed off the full game total. I liked the under in the first half. I got it at 20. It's actually moved in an interesting direction here because I got it at under 20 minus 110. It's under 20 minus 115 to minus 120 in some spots. So the juice is very interesting, seeing some buying on the over at that point, or just simply books tossing some additional shade that way, knowing that everyone's going to bet it, which is more likely the real scenario. But I like the under here. The weather is going to improve. Like we've seen the nasty conditions, we've seen the snow, we've seen all those things this afternoon. It's not going to be like that here necessarily at kickoff. It's getting better and it's going to improve throughout the game. You get later into the night, the wind starts to dip. Earlier in the stream, you mentioned might be important if you're not receiving the ball to pick the correct direction. That could be true, and it could also influence some of the decision making in terms of that, just knowing that the wind and the weather is going to improve throughout the game. So I think that they start slow. I think that knowing that points are at a premium, we're going to see a little more conservative game plan. I think that we're going to see teams take care of the ball, run some clock a little bit in this spot. So that's why I like the under here in the first half. I don't like it for the full game at this point because I do think that as the weather improves, as each team has had multiple possessions in the conditions, they start to learn things. They start to figure out things. They make adjustments at halftime, which we know that the Patriots are always very, very good at doing that. So I'm a little skeptical of the full game total as it's below a very key number in the NFL, which is 41. So I'm not on the under for the full game, but I am under 20 in the first half.
Nice. All right, yeah, props, go ahead.
I have a play I want to make official. I just saw a number that I really liked. I was waiting on this Zach Moss news, whether or not I was going to make this a play. That is
Alex,
Devin's...
can I guess it? Because I know what you're going to say. For some reason, I know what you're. Devin Singletary's rushing under, right?
Correct. As rushing and receiving under, actually.
I had to interrupt you because I felt like you were definitely, because I just saw that too and it intrigued me. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No. I'm glad you did see it. I'm glad we're on the same page with that and aligned. But yeah, I actually am going to go to Singletary's rushing and receiving under. It's 58.5 yards with Zach Moss active. We're going to see Matt Breida. We're going to see Zach Moss. Buffalo, in my opinion, will still try and throw the ball. more than they're going to try and run the ball. So, yeah, I just think this number is probably 10 to 15 yards too high, coupled with New England being a very, very tough defense, particularly snuffing out opposing receiving backs out of the backfield. So, yeah, I just don't even know how much Singletary is going to be used and on the field tonight. So, yeah, I'm going to make under 58.5 rushing and receiving Devin Singletary an official play. There
we go. Jeweler, mark that one down. All right, see ya. You've got Patriots +3, correct?
That is my play today, and I might make another play official as we start to see some numbers change and some numbers come out, particularly with this Zach Moss news. But yeah, it's the Patriots +3 for me. It's one of those things where I think these teams are relatively even. I'm getting +3 with a Bill Belichick led team, and listen, the last 6 games they've won and they've covered the spread in all 6 of those games. They're still probably not getting the requisite respect because of a lack of superstars on this team. And then you face Josh Allen at home. I understand why the line is 3, but I still think it's too many points.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills, they either win by 30 or lose by 30. Like, they're a really difficult team to cap. The Patriots have been incredibly consistent, over these last 6 games. Like, you pretty much know, in the range of what you're going to get offensively and defensively. All right, 3 plays for me. I've got the over 41. Look, I get it. I understand the weather. And I agree with Mike here. Like, I like the first half under, and I like the total game over. If we could get to 23-20, right? 23-21, we're home free here. It's just such a low number. I think that these teams are going to have to score, and they are going to be used to cold weather. Not to mention what we talked about earlier. I think we're going to see many more 4th down opportunities in terms of these teams going for them. And especially if they're, 2 yards, 3 yards or less, I think that we see additional, I guess you could say, continued drives for both teams. So I'm fascinated to see that. I'm also going to go with both quarterbacks over half an interception. Mac Jones over half at +100. I think that, what we talked about in terms of the game script, if the Bills get up, they are going to have to pass the ball. I mean, both of these teams are going to have to put the ball in the air at some point. Wind, no wind, whatever. You can't just run it, 3 and out, right? Like, they're going to have to try something. And Josh Allen, even when he's up, even when the Bills are playing well, he has been erratic in terms of his interceptions and turning the ball over, and especially against a defense like this with New England. Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to play both of them, keep it safe. I think that we at least get one, so I wouldn't, mind if we middled that. I think that we're going to get both, but, we'll see. It's going to be a wild game tonight. So those are the 3 that I am on. All right, Jeweler, if you could pull up Caesars Sportsbook for me, because I want to jump into these props. So let's start with the quarterbacks here. I want to take a look at passing yards for both Mac Jones and Josh Allen tonight. Yeah, Jeweler, if you could pull that up for us. Beautiful. Okay, so, all right, scroll down just a touch for us. There we go. All right, so Josh Allen, total passing yards, what is that, 219.5? Mac Jones, 189.5. So I'm going to open it up. Any of you guys can jump in. Anything that you like on the over, anything you like on the under with either of these guys.
These are extremely enticing numbers, especially for Josh Allen. Allen has eclipsed 220 yards in 10 of 11 games this season. Yeah, obviously the conditions are super concerning. So from that standpoint, I'm probably staying away, but it's very difficult at a number this low for Josh Allen, who I know is still going to be aggressive and still take shots down the field. If you're looking at one of them, in my opinion, it's Allen's over out of the 2 that present the most value.
Like, Josh Allen could have one arm, and we're not going to see a number this low. Like, you're never going to see this number a low again for Josh Allen. See ya, Mike. Any thoughts that you have on either of these guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go first, Mike. I agree with Alex here. The 219.5 is really enticing. And, as I'm looking, you can probably see the reflection in the background of my Irvin Magic Johnson and Larry Bird picture. But I'm seeing the weather, like Mike suggested, kind of getting better. I mean, I can't gauge the wind, but it's certainly not like a blizzard conditions or, what you might have seen on Twitter an hour or so ago. So I think 219.5 is pretty enticing. Obviously, I just said that they're going to be dedicated to the run, but that doesn't mean he's going to be handing it off all game. He has a plethora of weapons. They're all healthy. Beasley appears to be healthy with his rib issue. Obviously, Dawson Knox is back. You still have Emmanuel Sanders there. And oh yeah, by the way, Stephon Diggs, who will get a lot of JC Jackson, but I'm sure he'll beat him, enough times to get some yards there. So I think I'm sort of leaning the over there. The only worry I have is the time of possession by the Patriots and the manner in which they're able to establish the run. Then you could have a situation like we talked about maybe a couple Monday nights ago with the Washington football team where a 10-minute drive goes and you're like, okay, well, what happened to the second quarter?
Yeah, you lose an entire quarter. Yeah.
Right. So that's the only worry I have. But again, I agree with Alex. I'm leaning the over there.
I'm fascinated to see these QBs in terms of, I think confidence early is going to be a major dictator in this game of how they throw the ball. I think if, Brian Dable or Josh McDaniels, OCs see their quarterback having early success, that they'll feel more confident calling pass plays. Mike, your thoughts on either of these guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo the same thing. Josh Allen is the one that I would look to play the over. As far as Mac Jones, I have his number at 183 in the simulations. You look, he hasn't gone really much above 180 on the road so far this season. Hasn't had a lot of success. I kind of mentioned that earlier. They've really struggled with the passing game away from home. They're not going to want to throw the ball. The only reason they're going to be throwing the ball is if they absolutely have to and they're trailing. If they're having success on the ground, they are going to keep the ball on the ground. They are absolutely content to win this game 10-7 if they can. Like that's exactly what they want to do, frankly. So I would lean towards the over on Josh Allen, though. It's sitting at 219 is awfully low. I probably wouldn't play it until the very last second. See if you can possibly get that down 217, 215, somewhere in there. I do have the number above 230. A 10, 11 yard edge isn't massive on a passing prop. The lower you get, the bigger the edge becomes, but it's certainly a lean. It's not an official play for me. It's not going to shock me at all to see them come out very aggressive. I think that they could literally come out and take deep shots on the first drive of the game here. Like, it's not going to shock me at all. They've, out of everyone on the field, he's the one who's played and dealt with these conditions the most. So the other thing I'll mention there too is just those guys around the line of scrimmage, Beasley and Stephon Diggs, who I expect to have one of his lowest depth of target games of his career tonight. I expect him to get the ball to him a lot still. He could break one of those very, very easily. We've seen him do it a number of times in his career. So I do lean over on Allen, not touching the Mac Jones one, but I would take the under before I would take the over on the Mac Jones one.
Yeah, I'm with you. It is fascinating, like looking at the weather conditions in terms of rain and in terms of wind. And look, Michael Cortez, jeweler, if you could pull up his comment real quick, because he is absolutely spot on. So in regards to the game with the weather, if the field is wet, right, the offensive line is going to have an advantage there because it's going to slow things down for the defensive line. However, with the wind, it's going to give the defense an advantage here. So I'm fascinated to see how that changes throughout the game and how both of these teams adjust to that. So, Michael, yeah, great point there. You're spot on. That's going to be fascinating. First half to second half, if it does clear up or if it doesn't. Yeah, it was working. Go ahead.
It was a lot earlier in the chat, so I hope they're watching still, but I saw a couple great questions. One of them was suggesting successful 2-point conversion at over plus 200. I like that a lot. I think that these teams could potentially struggle to kick extra points. They may not want to if they're having any sort of success. And then number 2 on there, I absolutely do think you could look at defensive tackle props. We've seen people asking about them in the chat just a little bit. You get to have a little advantage playing those against the Patriots because they are so run heavy in general, which leads to more tackles than incomplete passes. That should especially be true in this spot. And you also have key injuries from good players who are very good at making stops and making tackles that are going to be redistributed just a little bit. So definitely interested in some of these solo and assisted tackle props out there. To whoever was asking that in the chat, yeah, I think it's super sharp and definitely something you should be looking at.
You're speaking my language with defensive props. I love that, man. Jeweler, pop in here real quick. Give us a likes update here. What do we got, buddy?
Look, we're sitting at 300 likes right now with just shy of 1,000 people watching. And so I noticed that the boss, Noah Stanley, is he seems to not be in the chat tonight. So, whenever the parents are away, we take their credit card. And I think we spent some money. I think we dropped some money. So for every 100 likes we have, I'm just going to keep dropping those codes in. And those are good for a year-long membership to SportsLine.
Nice.
That's it. So, I mean, we're almost to 400 now. Maybe we get up to 500. Maybe we get up to 600.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no donkey until we get to 5. I can tell you that.
All right, so that's the goal.
Go.
Yeah, we got to get to 500 likes. So everybody in the chat, smash that, get to 500, and we'll drop Mike's Donkey of the Day parlay. All right.
It does look like Noah is here. So
there he is.
Noah, we're still using the corporate card.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, having worked with Noah, or having worked for Noah in regards to about 8-9 years, yeah, he's always there. He's never away. My man is.
He's got push notifications on the word bosses. I know he put that in there somewhere.
He's always in the building, man. All right, Jeweler, if you could pull back up the Caesars Sportsbook here, I want to take a look. Let's look at running backs. Let's look at wide receivers here. All right, so I'll say this: are there any of the players in regards to a running back, in regards to a wide receiver, that you're interested in talking about their numbers first? I'll throw it out to the chat. We could talk about Ramondre Stevenson. We could talk about Damian Harris. We could talk about Stephon Diggs. What are your thoughts here? Anybody that you want to break down? Props, go ahead.
So Stevenson is interesting. I'm a big fan of the guy. I'm very bullish on his both short-term and long-term outlook. I do think he could potentially be the running back of the future for New England. I think in the meantime, though, Damian Harris is very talented, and they're content to not overwork either guy. We've seen Damian Harris have some durability concerns in the past, so it makes sense to keep both of these guys involved. However, I do think that Damian Harris is going to basically get the early touches. Ramondre Stevenson is kind of contingent on the running game working for New England for him to get mixed in and for him to get 12-plus touches. If New England is struggling, I think that he's not going to get the amount of carries that we maybe hope to see. So, yeah, I would just caution with him. While I think he's really talented, this is a tough matchup versus a very good Buffalo defense, and it requires New England running the ball well for Stevenson to mix in and get half the backfield touches. So I just want to emphasize that point.
No, it's a great point. And Damian Harris, his over-under set at 53.5. Ramondre Stevenson at 46.5. Any thoughts, Sia, Mike, that you have on either of these guys?
Yeah, for me, it's a true split between those two guys. When they're both healthy, it's a true split. So it's really hard to gauge how much confidence I have in those two. That's why, for me, I want to pick apart the Bills running game, like Alex did earlier with Devin Singletary.
Let's pull it up. Yeah, pull it up. All right, so we got Singletary total rushing yards. What is that? 39.5. Let it rip, bro. What do you got?
Yeah, so this one's dancing, which has me just a little concerned. So when I first saw it, which was maybe 20 minutes ago, it was 38.5. Then it went down to 37.5. Now it's up to 39.5. So that's really interesting to me. I mean, obviously, when you look at Devin Singletary's props versus Matt Breida and Zach Moss, it's basically double what those guys are. So clearly they think he's going to get like a 60-20-20 split. Or I assume that's what the thought process is. I'm not so sure that's the case. I'm not so sure they don't try to run Zach Moss between the tackles for a good amount of this game, even though he was inactive last week. So I will say this: I like what Alex is doing with the rushing and receiving prop better than the under on the total rushing yards, but I kind of like both. I like the rushing under for Devin Singletary, and I like the rushing and receiving under for Devin Singletary. And it's a no play for me for Matt Breida in particular.
All right. Yeah. Props, Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have Singletary projected for a combined 36 rushing and receiving yards, which compared to 58.5 is a very significant edge for an under, especially when you look at the amount of things that can happen for an under to occur, whether it's game script, injury, ineffectiveness, etc. There's just a lot of outs for an under. When you couple that with a significant projected edge, to me, it's a really easy fade. So, yeah, I do anticipate Zach Moss. He's not going to be activated to not get some run, especially in an event where Buffalo is nursing a lead. He seems to be the preferred back. And as far as Matt Breida is concerned, he's looked like the best running back in Buffalo since he's starting to get involved, which is what has caused Zach Moss to be deactivated. I don't think it's necessarily an indictment or on Singletary being that good. It's just more that Matt Breida has looked really good over the past couple of weeks. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be a 60-20-20 split either. If anything, it should be pretty close to like 33, 33, 33. Mm-hmm. And then in certain game scripts, Zach Moss could close the game out, which is what his role has been in the past. And yeah, so I think this is a very large number for Singletary, pretty much outside of him just having the lion's share of the carries, which he hasn't done really much this season. So yeah, I think it's a pretty easy fade.
All right. I like it. M Squared, your thoughts?
Yeah, mostly agree there. I do lean under on the Singletary stuff. Spoiler alert, I believe that's part of the donkey, but the Breida one is awfully low. I'm very fascinated by that because we're less than 2 weeks removed from coach basically saying they're going to try to get him more involved and keep him involved. So one of these is drastically off. It's either Singletary is going to be phased out a little bit more, or Breida is just totally going to be almost out of the rotation and it's going to be back to Zach Moss. So if you're someone who likes to take a lot of risk like I do typically, I would consider playing under on Singletary and over on Breida just because I think those numbers are slightly off. I would expect Breida's number to be 22 to 24, and I would expect that Singletary number to be 34 at least. I'm a little stunned that it's still 39. So that's the way I would lean on that. And then the last comment on the Patriots side, Alex is correct. For Stevenson to really get his going outside of busting one longer, 20-plus yard run, for him to really get going, their running game needs to be working. And the running game usually is pretty good. However, they're playing a very good defense that knows they want to run the football, especially in these conditions. Harris was very clearly RB1. Got hurt. They kind of brought him back and nursed him back slowly. At some point in some of these must-win games, and, I call this a must-win game. It goes a long way for them if they can win this game in the division here. We might see it flip back to Damian Harris being, a 70-30 and not the 40-40-10 type of split where they work Bolden in there a little bit. So just watch out for that. Be careful for that. I would be stunned if Harris didn't have at least his 40% share. And I think that number has upside all the way up to 60 to 70% share in this game.
That's an excellent point, man. Excellent point. Now, really quickly, before we get to the Donkey Parlay, we'll reset our official picks and hit our Van Jefferson Memorials. Jeweler, if you could, I want to scroll down really quickly. Let's take a look at Knox, and let's take a look at Diggs on the Caesars Sportsbook in terms of their props for tonight. I want to hit on those really quickly. Yeah, and Prop Stars, I'll come right to you first. Do you have the numbers in front of you, Prop?
I do.
Yep. All right, so Dawson Knox receiving yards, 29.5. Diggs receiving yards, 56.5. Let it rip, brother.
Yeah, so for me personally, I'm looking more towards, I think the volume is going to be, I think the yards in this scenario are a little more difficult to project. Even though the yards are low, I do think that Knox, or at least Diggs and Beasley, I know Sia and Mike are both high on Beasley, I am as well, are going to get looks. I totally am on board with their theory regarding, the lower ADOT being more advantageous in tonight's game script. So yeah, Cole Beasley is the guy in my opinion, and his receptions line is at 3.5. Of all the plays that I see on the board outside of the Singletary under, to me, that one has the most value. I like that play quite a bit. He's going to get the targets. He's going to be near the line of scrimmage. He is Josh Allen's safety blanket. So, yeah, I think Cole Beasley, 3.5 receptions. I saw it only at minus 115 as well, which is about as good as use as you could ask for. It's really, really appealing.
Nice. All right. Sia, M Squared, either of you. We got Dawson Knox, 29.5. Diggs, 56.5. Cole Beasley, 32.5. Sia, I'll throw it to you, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm more interested in Stephon Diggs over receptions prop, which I believe is 4.5, rather than the 56.5. I mean, the thing with Dawson Knox coming back, I think the general perception was, and this bore out is somewhat true, that it would probably affect Cole Beasley more than it would somebody like Stephon Diggs. And that ended up being the case, although Cole Beasley also had the rib issue a few weeks ago. So that's kind of affecting his game time as well. But Stephon Diggs, from a target standpoint, he's still getting them. 9, 6, and 13 over the last 3 games. I mean, that, and by the way, spoiler alert, before those 3 games, he was getting a lot of targets too, for the most part. So I think I like the receptions here. Yeah, he potentially draws JC Jackson here and there, but I think Mike suggested earlier in the show that it's not like they're not going to have some short area routes for Stephon Diggs too. It's not just Cole Beasley that runs those. So I think they're really going to try to get Stephon Diggs involved, within, with ADOTs being, between the 5 and 10 range. So I like the over in his receptions.
All right. M squared, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo there. I do lean over on reception number for Diggs and for Beasley. Slight lean on the Dawson Knox over on the receiving yards. So I'm focused on how they're going to get the ball in there. I think it's going to be difficult for them to get it to Emmanuel Sanders, who is just frustrating because he's so good at sometimes, right? But this doesn't project as a great spot for him. So, like I said, if you want to be contrarian, go play that because that's the most difficult thing for them to do is get him the football in these kind of situations. But maybe they'll try to do it, thinking the Patriots won't pay much attention to it. But yeah, Beasley, I believe it's over 3.5. I've got him over 4 with my median number, so it's a pretty strong play on Beasley's reception total. Focused on that average depth of target. I think he's going to be a real focal point today for Josh Allen. The good news here is he is a few games removed from that rib injury. Again, they're on a longer week, which is part of the reason why I like them on their home field. They played on Thursday, so they are a little more well-rested in this spot. So I lean over on Beasley.
Nice. I like it. We have reached the top of the hour. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome anybody that is new to the Early Edge. We are going to break down what we call the Donkey of the Day parlay from our own Mike McClure here. So, Jeweler, if we could pull that up. M squared, if you could break this down for us, because we did hit 500 likes. So thank you so much to everyone for hitting that. Well done there. And you know what? Mike is going to take care of you. So, yeah, Jeweler, if you could throw that up on the screen. Mike, all you, buddy.
All right. You have to bear with me. I heard there was going to be a lot of additional running, so we gave the donkey a few extra legs tonight to make sure he takes care of all that. We got Buffalo plus 7.5, the New England Patriots plus 7.5, the under 50.5 in the game, Mac Jones under 249 passing yards. First half spreads also, Buffalo plus 5.5 in the first half, New England plus 7.5 in the first half. First half total under 24.5. Cole Beasley, the only over on the card, over 14.5 receiving yards. And then Devin Singletary under 54.5 rushing yards.
I like that. There it is. I also like that Chief came out specifically for the donkey. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to jump right in to our Van Jefferson Memorial. Anyone that is new to the show, what we do is we predict who is going to be the first touchdown scorer of the game. Now, the rules are simple. They are this. It has to be plus 1,000 or more. Once you hit it, you are in the club. And let me just go ahead and tell you, Sia in the club, M squared in the club, Prop Stars in the club. So, Jeweler, buddy, me and you, man, we got work to do. Coach, who will be back tomorrow, I believe, he is not in the club as well with me and the Jeweler. So we have work to do. But you know what? I'm feeling it tonight. All right, so Sia, we're going to start with you. These are the rules. Anybody that's in the club, you get to go first. Sia, we'll start your way. What do you got, buddy?
Yeah, so, there's been a theme on some of these primetime games where, backup tight ends are just tend to get the touchdown work. And it makes sense to a degree. And we've sort of explained why as these games have gone. So I've noticed Jonnu Smith getting a little bit more work. Just last game, he had 4 targets, 3 receptions. He even had a carry, which I think is really interesting because you could see some misdirection here with somebody like Jonnu Smith in a game like this. He is at plus 2,200. So relative to a lot of these guys, he's certainly a long shot. But I think this is the type of atmosphere and this is the type of game. Now that he's starting to get a little bit more work, maybe no to Hunter Henry and maybe yes to Jonnu Smith. Give me Jonnu Smith plus 2,200.
All right, there we go. M squared, you're in the club as well. Next up, buddy, what do you got?
Yep, absolutely love that one. I was between 2 players. Jonnu Smith was one of them. The other one, the one I'm going with, is Cole Beasley. Talked about it a lot. I'm focused on the average depth of target heavily tonight. Jonnu Smith has the lowest in the game at 5 yards. Cole Beasley, next lowest, 5.6 yards. I think that they're going to use him a lot. I think he's finally healthy. I love that they've been at home. I love that he's well rested for this game. Just screams a spot where Josh Allen hits Cole Beasley. I think he's going to have a ton of targets in this game. So give me Cole Beasley for the Bills. Plus 27 or Sorry, that was Johnny. Plus 1,900 is the number on FanDuel Sportsbook, plus 1,700 on DraftKings.
All right, there we go. Prop stars, what do you got, buddy?
Yeah, I also love the Jonnu Smith and Cole Beasley plays as well. This just feels like a Jonnu Smith type of game to me for some reason. I think his prop is a little sneaky as well at 16.5 yards. But yeah, I am going with Dawson Knox at plus 1,100. I still feel like I'm in the club. Don't get me wrong. I'm really happy to be in there. Due to purely nepotism, having friends in high places, I am determined to get in there on my own merit. So we're going Dawson Knox plus 1,100. We talked about how he's got one of the lower ADOTs in this game. He is huge for this Buffalo offense. He's scored 7 touchdowns this season, so he's obviously leading the team in touchdowns and the preferred red zone option for Josh Allen. The guy is a very, very good player. So yeah, Dawson Knox plus 1,100.
All right, there we go. Now, Jeweler, could you pop in here for a second? All right, so I want to hear yours, and you're also making the selection for Coach tonight. All right, so give us yours, then give us Coach's.
All right, so for me, I'm taking a pick. You don't even have to worry about ADOT with my guy because we're going with Josh Allen. I think he gets it done on his feet, whether it's designed or something breaks down. I have no clue. I just know that our boy from who played college ball at Wyoming knows this kind of weather. Let's see him run one in. And I actually texted Coach. I reached out to him. I said, who you want tonight? With no explanation whatsoever. He hit me back with Jacoby Myers at plus 1,600. Josh Allen, by the way, is plus 1,100. So, maybe I'm flirting the line. I saw an 850, but, at this point, we're getting late in the season. It's, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., club closes at 4 a.m. I'm just trying to get in there. I'm standing in line. I'm trying to, look around, see if there's anyone I could pair up with, try to get in. So that's what we're doing here with Josh Allen.
There you go. You don't even care if you get a drink in there. You just want in so that you can leave and say, all right, now I'm in the club forever. And last night we had Patrick Mahomes, who scored the first touchdown of the game. So maybe we continue it with another quarterback tonight. I'm going to go Ramondre Stevenson with New England. I think that we can hit that both with an explosive run game play, whether we're far back, whether we're at the 1 yard line, 5 yard line. The way that this man runs is just pure destruction at all times. He's really fun to watch. I think that he is going to get the job done tonight. So we'll see. We'll see if we have a new member of the club. And this is always my favorite part. Now, before we end the show, Drew, I don't know if we have a graphic for it or not. We might not. But I do want to run through. Yeah, we do. All right. I want to run through everyone's official picks one more time, and we'll give everybody time to get these picks in and obviously start the game. So, Jeweler, if you could throw that up on the screen. Beautiful. All right. M squared. You are on the Bills Patriots first half under 20. I am on the over 41. Mac Jones over half an interception. Josh Allen over half an interception. RJ White's on the Pats plus 3. The Maestro's on the Pats plus 3. Props, you are on Devin Singletary, rush and receiving yards under 58.5. Sia, you are on the Pats plus 3. The Jeweler's teaser, he's got the Pats plus 8.5 and under 47. And then our Van Jefferson Memorials, Dawson Knox, Cole Beasley, Ramondre, Jonnu, Josh Allen, and Jacoby Myers for Coach. So that is all the time that we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for hitting that like button. And I'll tell you what, we'll be back in the morning. Coach will be back here in his normal spot, taking care of business. But I thank you so much for helping me out and to keep the show running while he is gone. So you have your marching orders. Let's take these straight to the pay window. Thank you.